if you weren't already a real estate agent, I would say, oh, by the way, who do you know that I should be talking with about buying and selling in today's market? Come on. Who?
Hello, everyone. My name is Thaismarie. I'm a real estate agent with EXP. And Jim, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is James Jock. I'm an associate broker with EXP Realty, serving Plattsburgh, Clinton County in the North Country. Well, I was always interested in real estate. And gosh, even back in the 90s, I ordered one of these things off of a infomercial on TV. It was Carlton Sheets, no money down real estate purchase. So it was like an old video thing. What's that?
You said Carlton Sheets?
Carlton Sheets.
Oh, Carlton Sheets. Okay.
Yeah, it was, I used to watch it all the time. And so even back then I was interested in it, and didn't actually start selling real estate until late 2014. So I was working in another job, and it's like, you know what? I've had enough of that. I think I'm going to do something different. And that's when I got licensed, and I've been full-time ever since. When you're licensed, you can go anywhere in the state. I've been primarily working in the local area here.
Like what keeps you going every day? What makes you wake up and be like, you know what, I have to do this?
Yeah, well, I'll use an example from a closing I had last week.
Okay.
I had a veteran buyer,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been looking for a home for a while, and I've been helping them. I'm also a veteran, so I always like to be a veteran helping veterans. And we found a house, and it was perfect for them. They loved it. And we get there to do the walkthrough, and the seller was there. Usually the seller's not there, but they were. And so we were talking and going over things, and they said, oh, we noticed that you still have some chickens. It's like, oh, we love chickens. We have like 20 of them, the buyer, right? And she's like, well, do you want 5 more? Because I'm not really sure I can take them, but I was going to try. And so they took the chickens, and the kids are walking around and they're holding the new chickens, and just everything about that transaction told me that this was perfect house for this family. And that's why I do it. That's what I enjoy. But my favorite part working with the buyer is handing them the keys to their new home. And we don't get to do that anymore. So that's kind of a bummer. But
why don't we get to do that anymore?
Because our local attorneys decided that it's easier to schedule without us there. Not that, I disagree with it. But that's just my thought, because we add so much to the conversation. Or if there are issues that come up, we've done the walkthrough. We know what the issues are or aren't. So we know kind of what I call the heart of the deal.
Right.
For the attorneys, it's like, they might do 5 or 10 a day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do quite that many, but we know what's important. If an issue comes up through walkthrough, we're the ones that resolve it, not the attorneys. They're going to like, well, if you can't close today, well, then we'll push it out, and then it'll go on.
Yeah. It'll make a way smoother process if we were able to.
Yeah.
We started the process with them. Might as well end it with them as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it. So yeah, why do I keep doing it? Because I like helping people either buy or sell their home,
Okay. And could you tell us about your first year in real estate?
My first year in real estate.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I joined in the fall, so it was a little quieter time of year, which I think was better.
Okay.
Because I had time to kind of get things rolling and get up to speed on stuff. There were a lot more buyers then than there were now. There were more listings then than there were now. So as far as my first year in the business, it was a lot of learning. It was asking questions all the time. You don't ask enough questions. But no, serious, because it was even like silly stuff, because I'm like anal on details, but that's what makes me successful. It was like, okay, well, the listing says you can have a cooktop and a stovetop, or a cooktop and a countertop. What's the difference? I don't know. I got to look it up, and what's the difference between a split level ranch and a raised ranch? I don't know. So I got to look it up.
Yeah.
So I was always asking questions, and the more business you do, the more questions you'll come up with
Right.
because crazy happens all the time, and it still does. But because I've done a lot of business, I kind of know how to work through those things.
So
So
with the experience that you've had, it kind of like helps you
I had
now.
a final walkthrough one time. I was talking about one the other day, but I had one time where we did it the afternoon before the closing,
Mm.
and we get there and the seller is not even started packing yet.
Everything is
The morning. So it's like, obviously, we're going to come back at like 10 a.m. the next day. So we show up at 10 a.m. the next day and they've moved some stuff, but there's still stuff in the house. you know, once a buyer closes, they go to closing, sign all the paperwork, it's their house. The seller has got to be out by then because it's
by
not
the
their
time it
house.
says on the contract, right?
Yep, exactly. So yeah, so stuff like that happens, but because you go through a lot of that stuff, you gain more experience and knowledge based on that.
So since you said that you were like still learning your first year and you had many questions, did you have anyone like a mentor or like YouTube videos or any kind of like educational source that you went to for those questions or?
Yeah, you can't go to YouTube or Google because real estate is local and real estate is different state by state.
Mm.
So when you're working to follow through, and answer questions, I mean, I would either ask my broker if she was there or another experienced agent. So with EXP, your best person to ask is your mentor or another agent that you know and trust that's either with your brokerage or with another one that you feel comfortable asking.
And since we're talking about first year and first experiences, how about you tell us about your first deal?
So the first deal I had was a double wide. I even remember the buyer's name I was working with was Shannon. I won't use her last name. I even remember where what road it was on too. Figure. And so it was a double wide with a detached garage, and the detached garage was like just rough cut wood on the outside. There wasn't any siding or anything like that. And that, we went through this big thing where the seller's got to put siding on it because the banks want to have that garage protected because it brings value to the transaction.
Mm.
So we worked through all of that part and we were delayed. And then I found out that the buyer decided to go from full-time work to part-time work. I'm like, what? Kidding me? So she was no longer eligible to buy the house because she didn't make as much money. So that was my first transaction. So I got into real estate in like the end of November, I think, of 2014. And we went under contract in December. So I was brand new. But I learned a lot on that one. And then about a year later, she came back and wanted to buy another house and kind of did the same thing. And she wasn't qualified anymore. And it's just like, have a nice day. So that was my first one.
And have you made business with her after or no?
Nope.
Any referrals?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
It's all about experience in real estate, right?
Yep. Some fall away and some don't. You just hope that you put together more than fall away. But I mean, not as many fall apart. Although I did want to have one just to give you a perspective.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago, out of town buyer, they found me based on my YouTube channel. So a lot of me showing them the houses originally was taking a video, sending them a link, that type of thing. But they were actually in town and we looked at 6 houses, put a contract on one, and we did the home inspection. There was some possible issues with the septic tank. So we had septic evaluated, after a lot of back and forth and all type of stuff. And we finally walked away from the transaction because the septic tank was probably close to the end of its life. So, we were delayed because we wanted them to pump it out. Mm-hmm. It's their septic tank, right? It's like, well, they don't really want to do that because they just pumped it out last year. I said, we want you to pump out your poop so we can see if your septic tank is failing. They didn't want to do it. So we did it. And then we walked away because of it.
Wait, so you did it and still walked away after?
Yeah, because there were issues with part of the septic tank and and there wasn't an easy way to fix it. And they pretty much said, yeah, you kind of need a new tank, and then you might need a new leach field, and
It was way more than the house was worth, right?
Yep. So I'm still videoing listings for them. I'll find one. Yep.
I mean, that's good that you're getting some leads from your YouTube channels and
Oh yeah.
social media. Do you feel like most of them come from your YouTube or on Facebook, like your social media, or do you feel like it's more in person, like your leads?
My business and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I do get some referrals from some online referral partners. I'm actually transactions that came from one referral partner.
Mhm.
So it's almost $1 million in sales volume that came from them.
That's really good.
And then 6 transaction sides that were repeat clients, so 20%.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I track all my numbers. Yeah, 10% past clients, 14% from my sign. So that might be where it's usually land, right? Where I get the buyer call me when I list a piece of land. So I count that as my sign.
Yeah.
Was kind of where it came from. Center of influence people, 7%. And then active prospecting about 17% as well.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of everything is probably the takeaway for that. Yeah. Past clients were 21%. So that's the highest.
I mean, that's really good. That means you're doing great business and brings people back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've 29 transaction sides so far this year. So, I mean, if I have like a piece of land and I have the buyer, then that's 2 transactions. I don't know if I really had any expectations of what it would be. I mean, I made more money than I thought I would make.
And that's always good.
That's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, one thing that I hear from a lot of people though is, what you learn to get licensed is like, that's the part of the iceberg that's up above water.
Yeah.
On what you need to know. And there's so much more. With
your experience, do you feel like you would prefer a physical realty or a remote realty? Because I know that you were in a realty before.
Yes. So I had an office before. And I mean, what did COVID show us, right? You can't go to your office. So most people got used to not going to the office, which with eXp Realty in New York is perfect because, I mean, I was working out of the house anyway. And during COVID, the only time I had to go to the office was to drop off paperwork because they were everything paperwork. eXp is all, 100%, online and stuff like that. Although I have found out that in some states, eXp works a little different, and some teams can opt to have their own location. But then that's paid for by the team. It's not a company location or anything like that.
Oh, so it's like if you want that space, then everybody puts in and gets the space, kind of?
Yeah, or whoever's in charge or running it or whatever. But we don't do that in New York, so I don't really have all those details. But it's, for the most part, you can do everything virtual online.
And you would much rather be at home in your office than somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I think so, because, I mean, sometimes when you're busy, the hardest thing is, when am I going to cut my grass? Serious, because first thing in the morning, it's too wet to go out and cut. And by the time it dries up, I got to go. I got things to do. I got places to go and people to see. So working out of the home office is nice. However, I still think, at least in our market, that it's valuable to do events that are in person. Whether that's, like our Border Realty has different events that they do. Some of our lenders have like a social hour, and it's still important and just fun to be around some of our colleagues.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times people say, well, they're your competition. It's like, you know what?
You don't have to look at it like that.
The properties compete, but we're colleagues. I mean, you might be on the other side and I'm on one side, whatever. But, everybody just needs to get along and, go from there.
Okay.
Well, let me look at my calendar today.
It switches every day. It's not like wake up at the same time as 6
Oh,
a.m.
well, I do. Yep. I
Like
always
it's
wake up.
scheduled.
Yep. I wake up at 7 o'clock. I drink coffee and look at stuff on my phone or iPad until 8 o'clock.
Okay.
8 o'clock is breakfast. 8:30 is shower and get ready for work. And 9 o'clock, I'm on the job.
Okay. And
Yep.
what does on the job look like? Or does it depend on the day and what you have to do?
It does depend on the day. Like today, my first thing on the calendar was to publish a listing. So that's in case I would have forgotten from last night, which is highly unlikely, but I put it on my calendar to make sure that I remember to do it.
Okay.
And then at 9 o'clock every Wednesday, I do a Zoom meeting with a buddy of mine who's a mortgage lender. So we chat for about a half an hour every week. And then after that, I was working on other details with my listing. And then it was about 10:30, 10:45, I had some follow-ups to do with, let's see, one is somebody who's trying to buy one of my listings, a follow-up with somebody who is one of my listings, and somebody who I had a lead for a listing, but it looks like they're already under contract from another listing. So I had some follow-ups to do, some leads to follow up. And then we're on the calendar here for today, for right now. And then after this, I have on my calendar that I need to do a marketing analysis for a home that I looked at on Friday.
Okay. And that's the end of your day?
No, but that's all I have scheduled. That's what I have scheduled. Yep. And then tomorrow I have a listing appointment in the morning where I've got to go up and do some work on a listing. And then there's a happy hour with one of the lenders in town at 3 o'clock. And then I'll be doing something in between.
Okay.
Yes.
Like a good day.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to think about lead generation. So you always want to, even though I've got a handful under contract and some listings, you still have to keep that pipeline flowing with, new things coming in, whether listings or buyers or whatever.
How would you handle, like, you see how you have time blocks and you schedule it the day before, that you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
How do you handle distractions, like, and other obstacles while you're like locked in for that time block?
Sure. So like I told you, I had 3 calendar items to follow up with 3 people. Well, I had that on the calendar for closer to 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I wasn't going to get to it right away. So what I'll do is I'll drag it to another time so that I make sure that it's still ahead of me to do.
Oh, okay. So you're constantly like making sure that you're changing your schedule with whatever you have to do.
Yeah. And if I need to, run down to somewhere to do something, then I'll add that to the calendar.
Okay.
Even if it's still like go pick up a commission check or whatever, I'll put that on the calendar because at the end of the year, I use my calendar to track my business mileage. So it's kind of all things are connected.
Okay. That's good. Do you have any advice to any new students or anybody looking into real estate?
Usually the first thing that I ask people when they talk about wanting to get into real estate is number one, why?
Okay.
Why do you want to do it? But one of the other pretty close to first questions is what other income do you have to keep things rolling until you do get started?
Right.
Because it does take some time and effort to get things started with real estate or anything. I mean, even if somebody's going to do Pampered Chef at home, that's a business you have to build up. So just like with real estate, it takes a while to do. And, like me as your mentor, I'm not here to, tell you, it's like, well, do this, do this, do this. There's training for that. My job is to help guide people through that process. Like with another one of my mentees, he's like, okay, well, I'm getting ready to do a contract. How do I do that? Because I've never done it before. It's like, okay, here's the first thing we're going to do. Boom, 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 stuff through it. But usually what I tell them is it's hard. It's hard work. You have to be very intentional about it. You have to ask yourself, am I prospecting something today? what am I doing to get somebody that I can work with, whether they're a buyer or a seller, each day, every day. There are different things to do. Last year I did like 2,400 mail letters. I mailed out 2,400 letters over the course of the year, all towards lead generation. It might have been a weekly expired that I emailed to, or it might have been, out of town property owners, or just all kinds of different things that I did throughout the year to bring in listings.
Okay.
Yeah. So you always got to be doing stuff like that.
In order to get business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Well, that sums up the interview. So I just want to thank you for your time and thank you for answering those questions. Yeah.
My pleasure. Well, thank you. I appreciate it as well. And if you weren't already a real estate agent, I would say, oh, by the way, who do you know that I should be talking with about buying and selling in today's market? Come on. Boom.